guys, what's going on? It's MassiveJoes RAW review, and I'm coming to you from MassiveJoes.com. Awesome raw review for the viewers at home today on one of the most highly anticipated GDA glucose disposal agent supplements we have seen thus far from our good friends at Core Nutritionals. It is, of course, Core Load in the house. Let's get straight into it, show you guys exactly what's in it, tell you exactly what it's going to do. That nutritional information panel ain't going to get it done. We're about to go balls deep in this Core Load. Fortunately, got ourselves a big ass nutritional, we're going to have so much fun with this review, viewers. A big ass nutritional information panel. Dylan, go ahead and cut up that panel so the viewers at home can play along. Starting from the top, a serving size 6 capsules, serving per container 30. Let's just bump it back to the capsules. Got yourself about 180 capsules in one of these 180 caps Core Load bitches, and at a 6 capsule serving, you got yourself 30 of those 6 cap serving bitches in one of these 180 capsule Core Load bitches. That was a mouthful. And it's a little more complicated than that. And when we kind of get into the ingredients, you guys will see what I mean. But at a 6 capsule serve, there is 30 serves per container. Obviously, at a 3 capsule serve, there's 60 serves in a bottle. There's 180 caps either way. And the reason why I'm mentioning the 3 caps versus 6 caps is because when we get into the ingredients, you guys will quickly discover that most of the ingredients are more than double clinical dose. So you can definitely get away with a 3 capsule serve, in which case you get 60 serves, compared to a 6 capsule serve, in which case you get 30 serves. Of course, being a capsule serve supplement, in 100% active ingredients, there's no artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, or fillers, or anything of that nature. I will point out that the capsules themselves are vegetable capsules, and the supplement itself, this here Core Load, is actually a vegan supplement. There's no animal products used either in the active ingredients or the capsules at all. In terms of what the active ingredients are made up of, starting from the top, and in fact, you know what, before we go balls deep in these ingredients, I'm going to point out 2 things. Firstly, we're about to discuss the dosages in a full 6 capsule serve. So this is you're going all out, you're taking the 6 capsules per serve and you get 30 serves in 180 capsule bottles. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, Core on their website have done a spectacular job with their research document so far as pointing out the actual research behind these ingredients, what the studies showed, what the study dosages were, etc., and go actually into the science and start talking about GLUT4 and PPSAR, gamma and alpha and whatnot. I'm going to quickly skim over it because I don't want to lose you guys. But for those of you who want the actual science, I'm going to pop a link down below in the description box to the Core research document on their website, and you guys can go check that out. Now we can go balls deep. Starting from the top, got yourself a green coffee extract from the Coffea robusta bean, yielding 50% chlorogenic acid in a 2,000 milligram dose. Obviously, we're looking at the green coffee extract here for the chlorogenic acid. So at 50%, we're getting 1,000 milligrams of chlorogenic acid. Keen viewers of raw reviews would be, hold on a second. The green coffee extract we're used to seeing in fat loss supplements. We're not used to seeing the green coffee extract used in GDAs, and you guys are 100% correct. Green coffee extract and chlorogenic acids are typically used exclusively in fat loss supplements because they deliver a few effects that are quite good for fat loss supplements. The first being glucose modulation, the second being inhibiting fat absorption, and that's why we see it used in fat loss supplements. Core is the first company to use green coffee extract in a GDA supplement. And the reason why it hasn't been done before is because for GDA type effects, you need to dose it really, really high. Keep that in mind. So, for viewers at home who are unaware, as I mentioned, green coffee extract, a glucose modulator, what it's going to do for you is reduce the release of glucose into the bloodstream and therefore regulate blood sugar level. And it's also going to inhibit fat absorption. And that's why we see it used quite commonly in very complete comprehensive fat loss supplements. The cool thing is, if you dose it high enough, if you super dose it, it actually increases insulin sensitivity as well. So it increases your cell's response to insulin release, which means more glucose from the bloodstream into cells where the glucose can be used effectively as a source of energy. But you have to dose it really, really high. The clinical dose, or the efficacious dose of green coffee extract, and this is where it's all going to come together for you guys, is between 50 to 100 milligrams of chlorogenic acids. And that's typically what we see it dosed at in fat loss supplements when it's used as part of a fat loss supplement. Here in the core load, they've dosed it at 10 times that amount. So efficacious dose, 50 milligrams to 100 milligrams, we have 1,000 milligrams of chlorogenic acid from the green coffee extract in a 6-capsule dose of this core load. Because they've dosed it so highly, it acts to increase insulin sensitivity. Pretty damn cool stuff. Moving right along, we then get into the second ingredient in the core load, the GS4+, which is a registered trademark version of Gymnema sylvestre extract that comes from the leaves. It's a leaf extract, yielding 25% gymnemic acids. For viewers at home who are unaware, gymnemic acids increases insulin secretion. So actually gets your body to secrete more insulin. And obviously, if you have more insulin, it's going to reduce your blood glucose levels as that glucose is being driven into muscle cells. So you guys can kind of see what's happening here with the synergism between the ingredients already. You've got the super highly dosed green coffee bean extract that's increasing insulin sensitivity, so the way that your cells actually respond to insulin. And then we've got the gymnemic acid that is actually getting your body to secrete more insulin. So you've got an increase in secretion and an increase in how your body is actually able to utilize the insulin, or your body's sensitivity to the insulin. In terms of the clinical dose to get this effect from the gymnemic acids, we're looking at between 200 milligrams to 400 milligrams at a 25% standardization. We have 1,000 milligrams at a 25% standardization, which means once again, even at the higher dose, it's 2.5 times overdosed the efficacious or the clinical dose. Moving right along, we then get into Berberis aristata extract, the bark extract, which is yielding 97% berberine or berberine, depending on how you want to say it. Berberine, a very cool ingredient, really doesn't get enough attention because of how, doesn't get enough attention for how cool it is. What berberine is going to do for your viewers at home who are unaware is it's going to activate your AMP-K pathway. And by activating the AMP-K pathway, you're going to once again improve insulin sensitivity in conjunction with your green coffee extract. And of course, therefore, increase glucose uptake and absorption into skeletal muscle. The other cool thing that berberine is going to do is blocks the enzyme that blocks the activity of insulin. So through that action, it's actually going to increase the effectiveness of the gymnemic acids coming from the GS4+. The other cool thing that berberine does is regulates lipid metabolism, and it does this through 2 different methods. It inhibits the genes that are responsible for converting lipids into fat tissue, and it increases the expression of PPAR alpha and PPAR gamma, which has been shown to reduce total fat mass. Crazy stuff coming from the berberine. As I mentioned, if you're interested in learning more about the actual scientific side of it, click that link down in the description box about the PPAR alpha and gamma and how these things work in conjunction with each other. But it is a very, very cool ingredient. The clinical or the efficacious dose of berberine to get these effects is a 700 milligram dose. We've got 774 milligrams, so it's actually once again overdosed. Moving right along, we then get into the fourth and final ingredient in this core load, and that is the Banaba Extract coming from the leaf of the Banaba plant, which is yielding 20% or has been standardized for 20% corosolic acids. This is pretty cool to note because most supplements that use Banaba extract in a standardized extract are standardized for 2% corosolic acid, sometimes up to 10%. Core are using 20% corosolic acid. So we're getting we're actually getting 25 milligrams of corosolic acids from this 125 milligrams Banaba leaf extract. For viewers at home who are unaware, corosolic acids actually mimic insulin, so they help shuttle glucose into skeletal muscle without the use of insulin, but kind of enhance the effects of insulin by mimicking it. Also induces GLUT4 translocation, which is going to improve glucose transportation within cells. And once again, in conjunction with the green coffee extract and the berberine, is going to improve insulin sensitivity. Similar to the berberine, it increases the expression of PPAR alpha and PPAR gamma to reduce total fat mass. It further inhibits pancreatic lipase enzyme, which in turn is going to help block fat absorption. So when you consume fats, it's going to stop the absorption of those fats. The clinical dose of the corosolic acids to get these effects is about 10 milligrams. As I mentioned, we have 25 milligrams of corosolic acids because it's the 20% standardization. So once again, we're dealing with a stupidly overdosed 2.5 times overdose the efficacious or the clinical dose of corosolic acids to get those effects. Not moving right along because it's a capsule form supplement, so there's no artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, or anything in it. So that's what's in it. Very, very simple supplement. We're talking about 4 ingredients here, viewers at home. We're talking about we got the green coffee extract, the gymnema, the berberine, and the Banaba leaf standardized for corosolic acids. Couple of things that if you haven't already picked up, I'm just going to point out for you guys. Firstly, every single ingredient in this core load is an extract standardized for a certain active ingredient, we haven't seen this in a GDA before. It doesn't happen. Most GDAs will have maybe 1 or 2 or maybe 3 or 4 ingredients in a whole range of ingredients that are standardized, and then other things that are kind of just thrown in there as extracts, but we don't know what the standardization is for the actual active ingredients. That's the first thing to note. The second thing to note is everything is overdosed. Most things are stupidly overdosed, like more than 2.5 times, which is back to the start of the review when I said you can take 3 capsules and still get these clinical results that we're talking about. The 6 capsule dose, you're getting, 2.5 plus times dosage of pretty much every ingredient in this core load. The third thing to note is that the ingredients have been selected because they synergistically work with each other. So Core hasn't gone and said, let's just try and get every single ingredient that we know is good for glucose disposal and kind of put a kitchen sink formula together. They've said, let's select the most proven ingredients that are going to work synergistically with each other, and let's put them in at least clinical, but in most cases, stupidly above clinical doses, because we know that synergistically, these things are just going to work together to produce the best glucose disposal effect that we can possibly achieve. So that's really what you have to kind of look at when you're looking at these ingredients, the standardizations, how the supplement's been put together. If you look at other GDAs on the market and you consider what this core load is missing, that's when you kind of get to this kitchen sink type thing. Is you could make the argument, there's no chromium in there. Most GDAs have chromium because it promotes insulin metabolism. There's no bitter melon extract in there, whereas most GDAs use a bitter melon extract because it reduces blood glucose levels. There's no cinnamon in there. We know cinnamon is very proven at, once again, reducing blood glucose levels. There's no ALA, sodium R, lipoate or any kind of alpha lipoic acid or anything of that nature in there, which is, been shown to lower fasting blood sugar levels. So it doesn't have these kitchen sink ingredients, but that comes back to the fact that Core have been very selective with the ingredients they've used because they're going for a very synergistic effect from the ingredients that they've chosen in this particular Core load. In terms of how it tastes, how it mixes, it's a damn capsule. So it doesn't taste and mix anything. Doesn't taste like anything, doesn't mix at all. I will show you guys, as I like to with my capsule raw reviews, I'll show you like the color and the size of the capsule so you guys know what you're getting into. So this right here, as you guys can see, this is pretty much a fresh tub. This is my personal tub right here. I busted it open yesterday, so it's pretty much a fresh tub of Core load. So you guys can see, in fact, I'll put them in the lid. There you go. So you get a bit of contrast up against the black there. So you guys can see, zoom and focus action, please. There we go. You can see the color of the capsules is kind of like a, I don't even know what you would call that color, like a citrusy type color. And you can see the size of the capsules. Actually, I will put them up against my hand just so you guys can see. So you can see the size of the capsules. They're not very big capsules. They are absolutely stacked in terms of like the amount of powder that's in them. As you guys can see, they're jam-packed with active ingredients. But they're not stupidly big horse pills that are going to be very difficult for you to swallow. They are capsules and they are vegetable capsules, so they're actually quite easy to digest as well. And an easy supplement to take. One thing that I will point out with the capsules is they're not enteric coated. So if you do suffer from reflux, you may experience some reflux with the Core load. Me personally, I have yet to experience any reflux with the Core load, but I do have to point out that they are not enteric coated capsules. So once they kind of get into your stomach, they start breaking down quite rapidly, and the active ingredients get into the bloodstream and do what they need to do. In terms of the effects, because that's what you're taking this shit for, it's a GDA, baby. It's a very unique supplement. It's still a very relatively new category of supplement, glucose disposal, and you guys want to know about the effects. So I'm going to tell you about my personal experience with the effects. This Core load has been available in the worldwide market pretty much since the start of October 2017. I'm shooting this January 2018, and I've been using Core load since it first came out. So I'm coming up to just over 3 months. To put it in perspective for you guys, October was the final month of my contest prep for the IFBB Oceania Pro Qualifier, where I earned my pro card. So I used it for the last month of contest prep, that last week of contest prep. I used it for my carb load as well, just before the 24 hours before stepping on stage. I then used it through my reverse diet, the last 2 months of my reverse diet as well. So I've had some pretty good personal experience with using Core load in caloric deficit, using Core load in caloric surplus, using Core load to help with a carb load, so on and so forth. My personal experience with it is I think it is the best GDA supplement on the market. And the reason why I think it's the best GDA supplement on the market is kind of twofold, actually almost threefold. Firstly, the last month of my contest prep, I was able to keep my carbohydrate intake quite high and continue to get lean during that last month, which is unheard of for me personally. And I really didn't believe what was happening when it was happening. Secondly, when I carb loaded before stepping on stage, before my shows with the Core load, I was able to consume more carbohydrates without spilling over, so to speak, than I have ever before in any carb load I have done. And I'm talking, guys, like I used to carb load on like 300 to 400 grams of carbs in the 24-hour period before the show. I went to like 700 and 800 grams of carbs in the 24 hours before the show. It was just like, I honestly couldn't believe what was happening. I was like, this is unheard of for me. And the result of that was the best package I've ever presented on a stage ever. I was able to get fuller. I was able to be tighter and harder through that carb loading process, thanks to the core load, than I have ever been able to before. Thirdly, coming out of my contest prep, I've been able to increase my carbohydrate intake and stay lean faster than I have ever before in a reverse diet. And I'm a note Nazi when it comes to contest diets and then reverse diets and just my diet in general. I take notes for everything. I take notes of every single change that I have and how long the changes and the period of changes. I document everything when it comes to my diet. And looking back over the last few contest preps I've done and my reverse diet coming out of a contest prep, I've never been able to escalate carbohydrate intake as quickly as I have and not put on body fat to the extent that I have as I have while I've been using the core load. And there's a lot of different variables here, guys. I'm not saying that that's 100% attributable to the core load, but I'm saying that the core load has definitely helped in that regard. It's just like the differences, and you put those three things together, and the accumulation of these different experiences that I've had while taking the core load, being able to keep my carbs higher in the last phase of a contest prep and still get lean, being able to carb load harder than ever without spilling over, and then being able to increase carbohydrate intake faster than ever during a reverse dieting phase without putting on excess body fat. You put all these things together, and you can't. It's undeniable. It's really undeniable. In terms of the transient effect, so what you're actually going to feel, what I personally have experienced feeling when taking the core load, disgusting muscle pumps. When you consume enough carbohydrates, don't get it twisted. This is a GDA. You actually have to consume carbohydrates to get the glucose for your body to be able to dispose it with the help of this core load. So if you're consuming enough carbohydrates, the muscle pumps you get from those carbs are just disgusting, and you feel it on your first dose. You feel it with your very first dose of core load. Your energy during your workouts is a sustained energy release. Obviously, your body's able to use carbohydrates more effectively to supply energy to working muscles during your workout. So you get a noticeable increase in it's almost muscular endurance, really, is what I would say, but sustained energy during your workouts. And then, as I've mentioned to you guys, your kind of medium term effect is that you're able to stay leaner while consuming more carbohydrates. So you don't have that situation where you consume too many carbs. The carbs, your body doesn't have a use for them. They float around in the bloodstream as blood sugar, and then they get converted into triglycerides and stored as body fat. You have a definite reduction in that occurrence, so you're able to consume more carbohydrates and stay leaner. In terms of the side effects, there are a couple actually that I do need to note that are quite unique to core load, as a matter of fact. The first one, I've already discussed reflux, so I'm not going to go over that again. The first one is if you don't consume enough carbs and you take too many capsules of core load, it's actually that effective that you will get lightheaded and you start to go a little bit hypoglycemic. It really needs, you don't want that experience, but if you experience that experience, and you'll be like, is this really happening because of this GDA? Yeah, it's really happening because of this GDA. So what I found as a good rule of thumb is if you're around like the 50 grams of carb mark, don't take 6 capsules, just take 3 capsules. If you're getting up towards the 100 grams of carbs mark, that's where the 6 capsule dose is really going to become quite effective. But if you're not up around that 100 grams of carbs, I really wouldn't take the 6 capsule dose, guys, in my personal experience, because it does have that effect of making you feel a little bit lightheaded, which is not what you want, especially if that's your pre-workout dose and you're about to go train. You don't want to be lightheaded just before you go train. So anything less than let's say 80 to 100 grams of carbs, I'll be doing 3 capsules. over 80 to 100 grams of carbs, I'd be going the 6 capsule dose just to stay away from that chance of you getting lightheaded with it. In terms of when you can take it, because I know that this is a question, and whenever I've done raw reviews on GDAs in the past, everyone wants to know, when can you take it? What's the timing of how you take it? How close to a meal, with a meal, after a meal, etc., etc. So firstly, in terms of the timing, ideally you want to take it with your meal, with your carbohydrate-based meal. So you're eating a meal with carbs in it, take your core load, either as you start eating the meal or just after you finish, but like with the meal is what I have personally found the best time to take the core load. In terms of which meals to take it with, as I just mentioned, you need to be taking it with meals that have a significant amount of carbs in there, or else it's going to make you feel lightheaded. So for me personally, my first meal of the day is quite a high carb meal, so I'll usually take 3 capsules with that because I get around 50 grams of carbs. My pre-workout meal, once again, is a relatively high carb meal. It's usually between 50 to 75 grams of carbs, so once again, I take another 3 capsules. Post-workout meal, if you have carbs in your post-workout meal, you can take the core load with that as well. Once again, depending on how many grams of carbs, you're either going to go 3, 4, 5, or 6 capsules. Finally, and this is something quite unique to core load that we haven't seen with other GDAs, is because there's a bunch of ingredients in here that actually inhibit fat storage, you can actually take it with cheat meals. And I'm very cautious of saying that because raw reviews that I've done on GDAs in the past, I've mentioned to people not to take it with cheat meals because the effect of increased insulin response and increased insulin sensitivity is actually going to cause an increase in fat storage. But I'm pretty comfortable with saying, and I'm comfortable through my own personal use, so my anecdotal evidence that I've collected myself through my personal use, that you can actually take the core load with cheat meals and it's not going to have a negative effect. It's not going to increase fat storage because of those ingredients that inhibit fat storage. So you can actually take the core load with cheat meals if you choose to do so. Obviously, once again, make sure your cheat meals are high in carbs. I would like to think that they are, you know what I'm saying? But if you do have high carb, high fat cheat meals, you can actually take your core load with those cheat meals as well. In terms of stackability, no problem stacking it with everything. It's a unique supplement. There's no ingredients in there that are going to overlap with a pre-workout or your morning supplementation or your post-workout supplementation. So stack away as much as you like. The final thing I will say is in terms of price and value for money, the best on the Australian marketplace, because of the fact that, if you're comparing the 6 capsule dose and you go, well, it's 30 serves, it's twice the price of everything on the market, that's not the way to look at it because of the stupidly overdosed ingredients. You look at your 3 capsule dose and then you're comparing it to other GDAs that are similar in terms of where their clinical dose or where they lie on the scale of efficacious dosing of ingredients, and you get your 60 servings in there. And when you're comparing apples with apples in that regard, it is the best value for money GDA on the Australian market at the point in time that I'm recording this raw review, which therefore makes it the best GDA, in my personal opinion, on the market at this point in time, plus the best value for money GDA on the market at this point in time. So guys, if you're in the market for a GDA supplement, look no further than this here core load. Guys, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to turn your post notifications on, both on your PC, your desktop PC, and your mobile, so you don't miss a beat when it comes to the Massive Joes YouTube channel. And guys, that is Massive Joes RAW review on the all-new core load in the house. And I'm coming to you from MassiveJoes.com. Stay massive.